Welcome, everybody. Welcome to each and every one of you. We are very, very happy to have you here with us. And before we begin officially with today's session, I did just want to start by um, honoring Susanna, our founding executive director of CMC, Susanna Weiss Locos, whose memorial is today. So much gratitude to you, Onika, for being able to come and teach today. Bart and many members of our Sangha are there in New York City today, honoring Susanna. So we are holding space here and also holding space in our collective heart for dear Susanna as we practice today. For those of you who are here with us, in case it's your first time at CMC, I will just run through a little bit of what our session today will look like. So, first of all, I'm Jessica Mingus. My pronouns are she, her. I have the distinct joy of hosting today. Onika Mays will be teaching. So, for some of you who have been to CMC for some years, you recognize her. For others, she might be a new face to you and your practice. She will be guiding us as we continue on our exploration of the Pāramīs. And today we will be talking about patience. And I have read that patience is a good thing to have. I'm still working on figuring out exactly what that looks like. So I'm happy that we have someone who will be diving into this topic with us and sharing some wisdom. And we look forward also to hearing from you all. So for the session today, we will start with a guided meditation that Onika will lead, and that typically lasts for about 25 minutes or so. At 11 o'clock Eastern, we will transition from that and take a moment just to reflect together on Dāna, the Pali word for generosity. And then we will go into Onika's teaching. And so throughout our session, if you have questions, if you have thoughts that you'd like to share with the group, they are all welcome. So the chat will be alive throughout the session. Drop in whatever you'd like to share with the community. And also, if you would prefer to share something anonymously, you can just message me directly and I will read your question or your reflection to the group when we get to that point. So at about 11:45, we will open things up and I will start to read through some of the questions for Onika's responses, her reflections, and for us to just kind of root all of what Onika shares with us in the context of our own real lives, our lived experience. And then at 12 o'clock, that is when we will open up some breakout rooms. So if you have 15 more minutes to spare, it's a wonderful opportunity to actually come off of mute and be in dialogue with some members of the Sangha. And just as a reminder of what that portion of our practice looks like, we really invite everybody to share from the I. So, anything that you'd like to offer to the group in terms of your continued questions, your thoughts, any storytelling that you'd like to do, all of that is welcome, but we do want to avoid offering advice. And then we also want to make sure that we are ensuring there's space for each person in the breakout group to be able to share and be heard. So, as a small collective, we just invite you to really attend to the whole group together, practice your deep listening, and also just make sure that everybody has ample space. So before I pass things over to Onika, we always like to do two things. The first one is to drop in the chat where you are tuning in from. So our dear guiding teacher Bart often calls this our Sunday practices, our mini retreat. So where is your retreat center for today? Where are you joining us from? And I will just read out a couple of those as they fly in. So the busy and sunny Upper West Side, that's where Susan is. We have friends in Brooklyn, in Miami, Florida, in Seattle, Washington, California, Michigan. Dear Onika's in Jersey City. I am nearby in Maplewood, friends in Connecticut, in the Bronx, Riverdale, so all over. One of the beauties of this Sangha being virtual, with the continued sort of in-person and hybrid session is that makes it really easy for our Sangha to grow and for everybody to access practice wherever they are. So welcoming all of you. And our favorite ritual of all is the community wave. So if you're on camera, perhaps you just lean in a little bit and give a wave to the rest of the community here. Find a new face or a familiar one and give a nice wave. Some warm eyes and smiles do wonders for the spirit, don't they? And so if you are not on camera, there were many, many smiling faces saying hello to you. And so without further ado, my dear friend Onika, we are so happy to welcome you back to the CMC. So hello.
Hello, everyone. I'm truly grateful to be here and acknowledging Susanna and all the members of the Sangha at the memorial today and this incredible legacy that she's built that we're all a part of and still that still endures, right? An aspect of patience is endurance. And I just think it's really beautiful. So thank you for having me, Jessica, and everyone. And I think we should practice. And then I'll tell you how underqualified I am to speak to you about patience today. But first, a sit. So I'll invite you to find whatever your seat is for today. What's your seat going to be? Are you going to stay seated in a chair? Would you like to get really comfy and lay down? But let's land together, individually. You can let your eyelids get heavy and you can keep your eyelids lifted. But the gaze is soft, whether the eyes are opened or closed. Whatever feels right for you in this moment. And that could change even during practice. The eyes could start closed and then open. But simply arrive. Get here. Like Olita Adams says, just get here. And I invite you to breathe in, even silently telling yourself, I'm breathing in and I'm breathing out. There's no agenda for the breath, just allowing it to be a source of support for our sit and for our time together. Dr. Larry Ward said, it's your good friend, your in breath, and your other good friend, your out breath. And you can feel the weight of the body and what it's making contact with. What's your seat touching in the back? Let what's holding you up support you. Support the physical body. And then allowing yourself to feel upright, but not tight. Even if the body's prone, you can still allow yourself to feel upright, lifted with a sense of presence that you're practicing. And I invite you to notice the breath once again, whether you take a breath in and out or just simply observe it for a moment. What it feels like to arrive with this inhale and arrive to the next moment with the exhale. There's nothing to fix, nothing to adjust. Just here right now. And we'll be spending time with patience in our practice, not as a concept, but as an experience. Patience, forbearance. And here's your invitation, noticing what pulls you away from this moment. What pulls on your attention? As we know, it happens all of the time. It may have already happened a few times. Pulled away by a sound, an internal distraction, craving, tightness, an urge. All of these are aspects of the practice of meditating, of sitting. That's what's here. Just noticing when we get pulled. Not even pushing away what pulls us, not following it, just, oh, there's that. And now another invitation. Noticing your response to your distraction. Not the distraction itself, but what happens inside you when it arrives. Is there a tightening? An urge to fix? Is there aversion trying to push it away and a desire to get it right? The urge to correct that tightening. That's what we're meeting. Just meeting the resistance. And I invite you now to gently let go of that work, coming back to your breathing, coming back home to the breath. Back to your companion, that inhale and exhale. And simply being with what's happening in this moment. Gently letting go of breath and noticing the texture of this moment, the taste. And inviting you now to let go of witnessing the texture of this moment for an offering. The frustration that arises when we sit, the impatience, the tightness. It's really an honest moment in practice, a sign that you're doing it with whatever arises. every time you come back, every time you return, without punishing yourself. It's exercising patience. That enduring of the moment of discomfort. And I invite you to let the body soften just a bit. See if you can do a little less. Are there places in your body that's been holding on to something, an idea that this moment should be different, or waiting for an element of practice to arrive a particular way? Can you just be with what it is right now? Not the next moment, but just now and now and now. And silently repeating, may I be patient with myself. May I meet what arises with openness. May I be at ease right here, right now. May I be patient with myself. May I meet what arises with openness. May I be at ease right here, right now. And extending that outward, may we be patient with each other. May we meet what arises with openness. May we be at ease. And now, closing your practice in a way that feels right for you in this moment. Is it a bow, a hand on the heart, or a breath to seal your practice? It's sealing this moment, offering gratitude to yourself for practicing together, noticing what's alive inside of you right now. And then as you're ready, joining the group in the room.
Aho, Ashe.
Thank you.
We were having some trouble with the bell earlier, and I could not tell if anyone heard it.
I heard.
Okay. It was whispering from my speaker, so
It
I
was. It was a little whiff like.
it's a finicky thing. It's a finicky thing. Onika, thank you for getting us started with that practice. And we always take a couple of moments to reflect on Dāna, the Pali word for generosity. And today, um, in memory of Susanna, I really just wanted to share my gratitude for her and for what she and Alan created here in this community of CMC. So I actually never had the opportunity to meet Susanna, um, but feel really honored to get to continue building the organization that she and Alan created. And it feels so special and so important for us to have these kinds of spaces where, regardless of who we are and where we are, to be able to have access to community, to care, and to do so without having to worry about whether we have enough, right? And this is, of course, something that is core to the Buddhist teachings, that they are freely offered, um, and that there's this exchange, right? That the teacher comes and shares their wisdom, and in exchange, we express our gratitude in the form of supporting them. Um, but that this Sangha was created in New York City, in a place that is wildly expensive and increasingly very difficult for anybody to live comfortably. This idea of creating a community where anyone is welcome and nobody has to pay a fee to be able to have access to wisdom and community is just a really, really beautiful legacy to leave. So, thinking of Susanna and thinking of the life she lived and how much she gave to so many people here, who have been members of the Sangha for many, many years, and also those members of the Sangha that are in community at the memorial today, just really want to honor the vision, and the commitment that it takes to really pour your life into building this sort of a space for others. So, although she has passed, I mean, it's one of those moments of really appreciating the fact that, when one lives a life skillfully, right, that your legacy lives well beyond you. And it is just a beautiful, beautiful thing that we have this community to continue to pour into and to pour into us. So, for anyone that might be new to the CMC, we are a nonprofit organization. All of our teachings are freely offered. We always meet every Sunday, 48 Sundays a year. We meet either on Zoom or we have some hybrid sessions in New York City. And next year in 2027, we will be meeting once per month in New York City for a hybrid session at New York Insight. So we've been working towards that for some time. It has been a process, of being able to figure out exactly how to make these sessions work as well as they can for practitioners in person and online. But we are really excited about being able to deepen our shared practice in this way. And all gratitude goes to you, to everyone in this community that attends week by week, and also for your contributions. So, CMC is a very small organization. We have two staff members, me and Bart. And then we have an incredible community of teachers that visit us throughout the year and share their wisdom with the community. And so every dollar that we collect when our community donates goes directly to us being able to offer these teachings to support those wonderful souls who come here and offer their wisdom to our community, and also to really ensure that these sorts of opportunities for practice remain accessible for everybody. So, in a couple moments, I will share some information with you about ways that you can contribute. Um, this organization, CMC, the Sangha, has been practicing since 2007. So, going on 20 years, which is really remarkable. So we must celebrate next year. But I will share some information about ways that you can contribute. As always, lots of gratitude to everybody from the Sangha who has donated in the form of volunteering time and expertise to this organization. So we have lots of volunteer projects going on. If that is something that excites you, feel welcome to contact me. There will be some information about that in the chat as well. Um, and we are also starting to encourage members of the community. If you would like to offer a brief Dāna talk of your own, it can be a personal reflection on an experience of generosity in your life. It can be a short reading, anything that you'd like to offer that kind of really helps us reflect on this theme of generosity and collective care. That is another wonderful form of giving that you can offer to this community. So I will share that information in the chat. And dear Onika, we are looking forward to your teaching. And again, as you have questions and thoughts, dear Sangha, feel free to share them in the chat and we will offer them up to Onika towards the end of our session today. So thank you all for being here with us.
Thank you, Jessica, so much. And I wanted to thank all of you again. When Jessica and Bart emailed me and said, would I like to give a Dharma talk on patience, I chuckled a bit. Patience is something that, as Jessica said, I heard is really useful. And it is. And it's funny because this isn't the first time this has happened when Bart and Jessica have reached out about having me come speak about a particular topic. And I'm like, I feel like the universe is playing a big joke on me by having me consistently teach the things that I am always working on in my life. So here we are again with this idea of patience, teaching what I need to learn. My birthday is next week on Wednesday, and I will be 55. And my birthday is always like a personal new year for me. I don't necessarily, thank you, celebrate like New Year's resolutions, but I love the idea of reflecting on my birthday about where I've been, where I'm going, and things that I would like to continue to cultivate inside of me. And patience is one, right? Because the life we've planned is not always the one that we're living. The things that we want to cultivate aren't always present. But patience is something that keeps showing up as something that I want to cultivate and really live with. And I wanted to start with a story, the Jataka story about the Buddha's previous lives. And in one life, he was born as a buffalo, a water buffalo in a forest, and he was powerful and formidable and huge and dark like a thundercloud. And he's living his life peacefully. And yet, right? Patience is one thing when nothing's happening. But where does our patience go when something happens? And there was a monkey, a little monkey, who saw the water buffalo being really peaceful and set his sights on this buffalo and said, yeah, that's the one right there. And he tormented the buffalo, riding on his back, pulling his hair, sticking fingers inside the nostril of the buffalo, pulling on the tail, tormenting him. And the buffalo just simply sat there, not doing anything, not shaking the monkey off, just being steadfast. And a forest deity appeared and saw this and was so frustrated, not with the monkey, but with the buffalo, and said, you are so powerful. You're big. You're huge. Why aren't you shaking off this monkey and using your weight simply to step on him? You can do so many things to this buffalo. You could pierce him to this monkey. You could pierce him with your horns. Why do you let this monkey make your life miserable? And the buffalo said, I know that the monkey is rude and devious and mischievous, but I know to be steadfast and to deal with these minor annoyances are what help me when the really big incidents come into my life. I know I could do something about it, but I don't need to engage with it. And the tale closes with this. Patience only exists if there's an opportunity to show it. And that's why the virtuous regard, even for those who trouble them, is useful as practice. And I love that because we get a lot of stories in Buddhism, and sometimes they show this big violent reaction to something, and it's like sort of the exception rather than the rule. This is about those minor annoyances. But patience only exists if there's an opportunity to show it. So the monkey isn't an obstacle. The monkey is practice. The monkey is practice. And I love that the monkey is practice. Patience is the antidote to anger and ill will. And I know that you're discussing the Pāramīs, and before patience, right, we have effort or energy. And then after patience comes truthfulness. We have energy and effort to help us cultivate patience. So when anger arises, we have the ability to withstand it. And through that withstanding, that steadfastness, we're able to cultivate a sense of truthfulness about ourselves, about the world around us, and to be with things as they are and not try to make them any different than they are. And the Pāramīs, along with so many other things, they build off of one another. They're an ecosystem. It's not like a list. It's not a checklist. I've got this. I've got this. But they weave together so we can be awake to who we are. We can be awake to the world around us. We can be free. But if patience, we're talking about patience and anger and ill will, and there's so many aspects to anger. I know when there's like something that's really big and angry, of course we want to exhibit patience. But again, I think that's the exception, the large outburst. But we have subtle anger that I think is even more destructive, like resentment, suppression, sarcasm, those subtle aspects of anger, which show up in our lives day to day. That's when we need patience. I used to operate in those ideas of the exceptions. My practice only needed to be useful when something big was happening. And then after the big thing, the crisis appeared. So when I first started practicing, it was almost like I forgot about it until the next big thing arrived. But it's not about living from one big thing to the next, but it's about this daily cultivation of beginning to notice what's living inside me, how I'm feeling about it, and how I can transmute it. Because we're talking about transmuting the anger so we can cultivate that truthfulness that comes from that, which helps us cultivate loving kindness, equanimity, generosity. So being aware of the subtle aspects of anger is incredibly important. And we break up patience into 3 distinct aspects. And I wanted to talk about all of them because I think each of them has something powerful to teach. And the first one is patience with others. Patience with others. The ability to meet difficult behavior, provocation, mistreatment without retaliating, without holding a grudge, without letting that burst of anger sort of run things. Maintaining compassion, even when it's the last thing we feel like doing. And I think most of us think that's what patience is. And that I had down, right? I've worked in some really triggering environments and have witnessed lots of big bursts of anger and violence. And being calm in those moments is wonderful and almost easier to do when there's so much energy coming at you. It is actually easier for me to meet those big fields of energy with peace because you can almost match it. But it's the suppression that gets me. It's the little things. Something irritable happens and I push it down, or even worse, intellectualize it and pretend it's not happening, or rationalize it, or come up with a really good explanation of why I'm sarcastic or why I'm suppressing. And it goes down. And then it happens again and again and again and again. And if I'm not paying attention and just pushing those down, I'm crossing the street, going to get a cup of coffee, and the light's changing, and a car bursts through the light, almost hitting me. And I am off to the races, every profanity flying out of my mouth, stories about the fall of civilization and why is everybody rude? Nobody has any manners. And I have this disproportionate response to something that happened because of the suppression. The subtle aspects of anger, the things we pretend aren't happening, the things that feel invisible or not important enough to address, are the things that take us under. And that happens with other people. We see little things, we witness little things. We're like, not a big deal, not a big deal, not a big deal. But it's not about that other person. It's about what we are pushing down when we're encountering difficulty. The difficulty inside ourselves, the suffering that we create for ourselves because of the suffering of outside. I was good for a long time at looking patient, holding it together, even though something else was happening underneath. The tight stomach, I'd take some deep breaths and the stomach wouldn't feel tight. A false smile in place. But that's politeness and good manners. But it wasn't kindness for myself or whatever difficult situation I was dealing with. It's really an aspect of conditional love, the near enemy of metta, which I was sort of using as a way to bypass the tiny bits of anger that were gnawing at me. And the teachings are clear about this. Holding your tongue or seething isn't patience. We're really trying to perform politeness when we do that. And Shanti Deva said, "There's no evil like hatred, no fortitude like patience. My mind will not experience peace if it fosters painful thoughts of hatred. The one who burns first isn't the person that you're angry at, it's you." And Dhammapala said that patience has the characteristic of acceptance, that its function is endurance. And its manifestation is tolerance and non-opposition. And it's the proximate cause to seeing things as they are. And that's the part right there, seeing things as they are. Seeing things as they are. You can't be patient with something that you can't see honestly. And for a long time, I used to manage. I was managing rather than witnessing what was actually happening. And there's a difference there. But we do this so we can talk about the second part of patience, which is the endurance of hardship. And hardship that we cause ourselves, hardship that we are enduring, the suffering of suffering. But it's that inner resilience to stay with difficulty, physical discomfort, life's obstacles, or stretches when nothing seems to be going anywhere. And how can we do this without collapsing, without insisting that things look different than they are, without wishing that things were different, but simply being with it? And I'm living that actually very clearly right now. I'm actually in a season of grief, as happens in different times in my life. A few days ago, my beloved cousin left her body unexpectedly, and my family is dealing with that and navigating that. And I was talking with Jessica just before we all gathered that I come from a very strong family of women on my mother's side. My grandmother had women. There's tons of aunts, daughters, cousins, and we're all very strong, very powerful, and very outspoken. And in times of crisis, we all respond to things very differently. So I'm in a season right now of navigating patience with people in my family who I love. You know, I'm always talking about that. You don't have to like people to love them. But what I'm really talking about is how am I going to manage these situations? And it doesn't really have much to do with the person that I find difficult. How am I not going to get caught up in old stories about how I used to be perceived when I was 20 or when I was 10 or when I was 40? But who am I right now? How am I going to navigate this season right now with difficult people? And notice the suppression and meet it. First, acknowledging it and then meeting it. Allowing myself to notice, is this an old story? Is this a new story? Is there something else going on that's making me react this way? And what can I do in this moment to create the safe space that I need to deal with the tiny irritations that build up? How can I offer myself loving kindness and compassion so I can be with what's happening from a place of equanimity and authenticity rather than anger? So it's not about being with difficult people and managing the person outside. But does it mean that I notice what's happening and use boundaries, use loving kindness? And the patience that I'm looking for is with myself, with my own reactions, managing my own grief, my own human response to really impossible situations. And for me, it's noticing the 5 hindrances when they arise. Am I looking to push something away, something I don't want? I don't want to be having this conversation with this person right now. Or the tightness, my need to manipulate or manage, or feeling restlessness or anxiety or doubt. Noticing how the 5 hindrances show up also allow me to recognize the anger in all of its forms. And there was a comment in the chat sharing more about the difference between patience and managing. So what I'm talking about with that is managing. When I manage things, I'm telling myself that this is okay. I'm feeling this because, and I'm not really dealing with it. I'm speaking from an I place. This is how I would do this by managing. This isn't not a big deal. I would say something's not a big deal, but not really mean that it's not a big deal. It was a big deal. I know for me, when I say something's not a big deal, it is absolutely a big deal. And it's a flag for me to take a pause and see what's really happening and be able to offer myself some tenderness and compassion in the moment so I can acknowledge what I'm feeling and deal with it. So I can step into a place of patience and endure what's happening. So that's what I mean. Shishido describes patience as like the restraint of holding the heart still in the presence of suffering until it lets go. So you're not blaming anymore. You're not running. You're not pushing away. It's being with. And that being with is the third aspect. It's the acceptance of reality. But not resignation. It's not giving up. It's like a deep receptivity to life as it actually is right now. Recognizing that this moment will not last forever. And change is always occurring, even if something isn't going the way that I would like it to go right now. So I'm meeting something with like my hands being open. Can I say more about suppression? Yeah, I can say more about suppression. It's that pushing down when you're telling yourself, this is happening and I'm not going to deal with it. So I'm going to push that down. And we might not even say it exactly like that. It's this idea of brushing it away. It's that not a big, it's not a big deal. And that's different than we say things like no big deal when we're doing a sit and we're allowing things to pass. It's when we're pretending that something isn't a big deal. And the flag can be the tightness that arises, that sense of tightness that arises when we say that something isn't a big deal versus when we say no big deal and something can float by. It's the resistance that arises that can be the flag for suppression. Or the rationalization that comes right away after we say something that isn't a big deal. And we don't want to suppress because we aren't really being with reality in the moment when we keep pushing things away or pushing things down. We want to be able to meet what's happening right now instead of with like a closed fist, but an open hand instead. And it doesn't necessarily mean deep joy in a moment. It can just simply be acceptance of what's happening right now. That's enoughness, that idea of contentment. Right? In yoga, we call it santosha, contentment. Okay can be enough for what's happening right now, if that's what's happening right now. It's not about like waiting for big storms to pass, but it's acknowledging that you're in the middle of a storm, but you don't have to be completely consumed by it. And you can feel it without being ruled by it, which is why our meditation practice is so powerful because we get to practice this, right, from the comfort of our sit. Noticing the wandering, noticing what arises, observing it, meeting it, noticing our reactions to all of those distractions without punishing ourselves, without pushing anything down, but being with it in the micro. Again and again and again. How do we distinguish between acquiescence and patience? Some of this can also be determined on how you are interpreting acquiescence, right? Acquiescence is allowing something to be different than doormat, different than recognizing harm is being caused to us, right? And this is how things sort of weave together. We're not allowing ourselves to be hurt by something, but we're saying this is happening right now. We can look around in the world and see what's happening right now in different places and saying this is going on. And am I going to do something about it? Am I noticing what's happening in my body and pretending this isn't what's happening? and meeting it with some tenderness, that loving kindness, and saying, this is what's going on, and this is what I'm going to do about it. And you make choices to respond rather than react. Through acquiescing, we cultivate patience. So that's what our meditation practice does. There's also another great teacher, Stevie Wonder, who talks about, in one of the greatest albums ever, Songs of the Key of Life, there's a song called Joy Inside My Tears, which allows us to be with what's happening. Joy can exist along with our anger. And when we allow ourselves to exercise some patience, the anger can dissipate. Right? Sharon Salzberg puts it this way: practice doesn't mean making a pact with the devil of denial. It means being wholeheartedly engaged in the process that's unfolding. Rather than ripping open like a budding flower or demanding that a caterpillar hurry up and turn into a butterfly. And we do that to ourselves all of the time, trying to rush to the next thing, to get to the next part that we feel like we're more equipped to deal with, rather than understanding that unfolding. Patience helps us cultivate wisdom. Wisdom helps us cultivate patience. I've been here before. I've seen this before. I responded this time, this other way, another time, and there was a result that I didn't want. So can I just be with what's happening and respond to it, rather than reacting and pushing back and offering resistance? Because when we're resisting something, we're still engaging with the very thing that we don't want to have. So we practice to stop us from doing that. We practice so we can stay in this consistent process of unfolding again and again and again. So we're not rushing, that we can be the caterpillar and be okay that we're in the chrysalis stage for however long we need to be there, recognizing that it's not forever. I use music as a big teacher for me. So I'm going to give you some homework to practice with, to use the lyrics to listen to as we talk about patience. 3 songs, 2 teachers. The first, well, Hank Williams Sr. wrote a song called House of Gold, which is amazing. But the cover by Kenny Rankin is my favorite. Find this cover and sit with it and ask yourself, what is the thing that I am chasing or running away from or trying to push away? My second homework assignment for you is Stevie Wonder, Joy Inside My Tears from Songs of the Key of Life. And my third homework assignment for you is Stevie Wonder, Love's in Need of Today. Because patience isn't just personal. It is something that we all owe each other right now in these times. So we can cultivate some truthfulness, some equanimity, and loving kindness. So that's what I've got. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Onika. I know that you had responded to a couple of questions that came up in the chat, but there was one from Lisa that I wanted to read back to you. Um, she asked, when we are in pain, do we just meet it and accept it, or take a pill, or do both? Is it all acceptable?
I think when we're asking ourselves those questions around pain and suffering, the question I ask myself, is this harmful? Is it non-harming? If what we say when we're saying acceptance, um, I think is the important thing that you have to ask yourself. Some people say acceptance and mean something very broad. Other people say acceptance and sort of there's a lower threshold because they're talking about tolerance. When I'm saying acceptance, I'm really saying recognition and witnessing to what's happening. Acceptance doesn't necessarily mean that you're swallowing something. If the suffering is from the outside or from the inside, can I say, like, this is going on right now and I'm dealing with it? And the reactions that come up from that. I'm so angry that this is happening right now. Why is this happening to me? That's kind of a reaction. And when I'm saying this is what's going on, and do I need to respond differently? Do I need to take an aspirin because I have a headache? Rather than just saying, I'm just going to sit with the headache and suffer with it, because that's causing more harm. So we need some discernment too when we're talking about what am I accepting, what's acceptable in my life right now, what are the circumstances that I'm accepting this pain. So it's not in a silo when we're talking about this idea of acceptance. Is there a boundary that I need to put down? Because that's going to help the pain not be there. And I say boundary, not barrier. I don't know if that's helpful.
Okay. Veronica shared, thank you, just before this sitting, found what Pema Chodron said about patience. Patience is growing our capacity to hold discomfort, and I often feel like when I feel have learned some patience, the next lesson is just around the corner. Patience is
Mm-hmm.
growing our capacity to hold discomfort.
I love that. And I want to say something about discomfort because there are some folks who constantly live in a state of discomfort. So it's also saying, is my discomfort the fact that I can't give myself comfort in this moment? So that's where discernment comes in. It's like being very aware of what you're dealing with. Like we say discomfort, and I think that's often translated or conflated with this sense of I have to sit in all of this pain that I could actually do something about or I could respond to. So I think it's really important to say when I'm sitting in a state of discomfort, what's causing this discomfort? Is this a discomfort that I'm used to all of the time? And is giving myself some ease actually going to be more important than saying, I need to sit here and tolerate this discomfort or this pain for a longer period of time because I think I need to be like flogging myself in order to get to the other side of it? So there's a lot of gentle questioning and observing that we do when we're in moments of discomfort. And I think collectively, we're in a big moment of discomfort on so many different levels. All of us are feeling so much discomfort. We watch the news, we feel discomfort. And sometimes we think, I need to keep watching the news because I need to be aware of what's happening in the world. I need to accept what's happening outside there. But if that is causing you pain or anger, then the response might be, I need to be gentle with myself in this moment so I can allow myself to feel more regulated and really be with what's happening, and then perhaps engage again with what's going on outside. So it's a balance and it's a dance that we're doing. It's not something that's static. It's not even necessarily linear, but it's that gentle awareness of moving in and out of something. Does that make sense? Does that feel too like in the ether? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I can get up there sometimes and talking about rainbows and clouds, and it's not making any sense. Okay.
Vin had this to say, um, sometimes I wonder whether patience is acceptance of uncertainty or simply hope as calm waiting for things to improve. How do you distinguish how do you distinguish patience from optimism? And are they related?
I think there can be some relationship between patience and optimism, but I think hope is important. Like we need hope, but we don't want to use hope as a way to bypass what's going on, but hopeful about what can come out of it, but and using a compassionate non-attachment around that. So we're not clinging on to optimism and saying, well, it's okay that this is going on, and pretend like we can use that as also a way to bypass what's truly happening. So it's that gentle balance. And I know I sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but it's that dancing with discernment and saying, yes, we need to be hopeful. We need to have optimism when we're in a really challenging season, and still be with the challenging season, but not letting it take us under. And I think grace, there's a comment right after. The word I keep coming back to me is grace, which I have been working on cultivating for myself and others. And this feels related to practicing patience. And yes, grace, hope, optimism are all things that we can cultivate as long as we aren't clinging on them as a way to pretend that what's happening isn't happening. And that's where the discernment, I think, is so important.
Jane shared, I love the concept of not wanting a caterpillar to hurry up and become a butterfly. This applies to ourselves, but other people too, right? In other words, a lot of time is wasted at work, but I think wanting my colleagues to do things the way I would is the same concept.
Yes. I said that yes really fast. Yes. Yes, I relate. And it's so that really is. I think that's so important. Wanting to be things different than they are, or falling in love with potential is another way that we can end up sort of clinging rather than being with what is. I love the concept of not wanting a caterpillar to hurry up and become a butterfly. This applies to ourselves. It's so powerful, right? It's just so powerful. Can I just be who I am right now? This is going on right now, so I may as well just be with what's going on right now and not try to make it something else. But that doesn't mean that we can't approach what's happening and give ourselves grace, comfort, tenderness, hope, as long as those don't become ways that we avoid what's happening right now. Because then that can also lead us to act from a skillful place rather than from a place that isn't skilled. Because contemplative practice should lead us to do something. It should lead to action, to make the world less harmful than it is for ourselves and others, for the earth. So we aren't just saying, I'm in this place right now and navel gazing and just going back and forth with ourselves intellectually over and over and over again. That's why we need the energy, the effort to be patient, to keep moving, recognizing that it won't be like this forever. And not just when things are challenging. We're always talking about when things are challenging, but we also need patience when we're in moments of great joy and celebration. This feels so good. I don't want it ever to end. And we get impatient thinking, or angry, this moment isn't going to last forever, right? It's not just about the difficult parts of our life. We should be patient with joyful parts of our lives too. This isn't going to be forever. We be with it right now. So we can truly be in the things that are bringing us joy right now. so we don't miss it. And then we get angry that we missed it because we were thinking about we didn't want it to end. So often, and I would encounter this so much when I was teaching at Rikers. People would come in a moment of deep crisis, and we would talk about things like patience or hope. And then the crisis would pass, and then I'd stop seeing them. They would stop coming. Oh, I don't need to come see you today. I don't have anything going on. But we always have life going on. So these are always elements of ourselves to cultivate all of the time. So when the big thing comes, we're resourced to acknowledge the magnitude of it, but also knowing that this is something that we've been practicing daily with the little annoyances. There's a great kids book, Why Mosquitoes Buzz in People's Ears, by Leo Dillon and Diane Hamilton. Came out in, I think, like 77, 78. It's beautifully illustrated. It was a Caldecott Award winner. And it's about actually gossip and the power of the danger of gossip and how gossip can lead to anger and can like level things. But how can we find little moments of joy? And we just have to remember that it's those tiny little aspects that we pretend aren't happening, for me, are more dangerous than when the big things arise or when the crisis arises or when that person is really in my face. I'm equipped to deal with that because it's so big. And unless I deal with it, it's not going to go away. But my neighbor who puts out their trash too early and doesn't use a trash can, and the raccoons get into it every single week. Me pretending it doesn't really bother me. Now that's my real work. That's the real work. Not the person who's screaming in my face. That's all right. I know that's not going to be forever. But my neighbors, they're going to be here forever.
Elena shared a lovely poem. Before that, some really kind words for you, Onika, and for others who may be experiencing loss and in a space of grief. So I'll read what she offered, and then also she shared a poem written by her father. So
Oh,
I'll read that also. So two comments coming. So first, Elena said, Onika, so sorry for your loss. Just FYI, in case any of this may be helpful, these have helped me and many others. Alexandra Kennedy, a great therapist specializing in loss for decades, so provided her website. Her tiny, lovely book is wonderful, called Honoring Grief,
oh,
Creating a Space to Let Yourself Heal. And another she wrote with others, How to Grieve What We've Lost, Evidence-Based Skills to Process Grief and Reconnect with What Matters.
oh, I'm
And
going to
David
write this.
Kessler's work too, grief.com. So sending condolences to all with painful losses. So thank you, Elena,
Thank
for
you.
that generosity and
Thank you.
sharing. And very much looking forward to this. So she said, and here's a poem about loss that I hope some may appreciate, by her dad, Irving Levine, decades ago as a condolence for a friend on the loss of her parent. And it's called Of Continuum. Having had and having lost parents, aged through nature, having had and having lost loves, parted through living, having had and having lost children, torn through confusion, having found and having lost friends, passing through maturing, having had and having lost through nature, living, confusion, and maturing. Yet I find anew and have always my parents, love, my children, friends, all and ever, all refreshing, all the springs of all my being. For I am what I have had and lost and done, and I am content with being what I have this way become.
That is just magnificent. Thank you.
Gave me goosebumps, Elena. Thank you for sharing
Oh,
that with
Elena,
us.
thank you. Thank you so much. Deeply received. Thank you. It's so beautiful.
Wow, she says she actually has a personal letter from Elie Wiesel about my dad's poem. Wow, wow.
Wow. It's just, can I find this somewhere? Because I really want this. Let me copy it. It's magnificent.
Really is beautiful.
Copy.
I was chuckling because um first of all, many people are taking your homework assignment quite seriously. So we
Hey,
are circulating these three tracks to listen to. But Elizabeth asked, so how do you deal with raccoon trash neighbor?
very patiently. Um, there isn't really much to do. I can't force somebody to get a garbage can or make them take their trash out earlier. So I actually just have started just picking up the trash when there's trash on the street and knowing that that's going to happen. It's just really helpful for me because I don't have any feelings about it. I'm like, you know what, this happens and I'm just going to go get the trash and that's what I can do. Having a conversation with them is not going to be productive. So that's not reasonable. But what is reasonable and what I can do is when there's trash on the street, I just go get it. And I feel most of the time, I feel okay with that. Um, yeah, it's it's what it is. I arrived at this place because I let myself really be angry about it for a very long time and complaining with other neighbors. We were like, and that's not helpful. If I thought it felt good in the moment, but it's not really helpful. But doing something about it is really helpful, and it's no skin off my back to do it, and I feel better that it's just taken care of, and that's what I do.
I am aware of the time, so we have a couple of moments left, but I just wanted to lift up what Jane had shared, which I think is a really lovely note for us to leave on. She said, yes, one of the things I've learned from Bart is to allow myself to feel joy.
Mm, love that. That's so powerful. Thank you. And thank you for the note on saving the chat. I forgot you could do that. So done.
Yes, thank you, Jane. And just actually, as we get ready to transition to the breakout rooms in just a moment, two things to share. So, first of all, thank you, Jane, for noting that. So, we do always have the transcript going
Oh,
during
that's
these
right.
talks. So, at any point, if you go to the toolbar at the bottom of the screen, you'll be able to read the transcript and also save it if you'd like. And we also just changed the settings on SoundCloud. So all of our teachings are always recorded week by week. So you can listen to the audio when you'd like. But a member of the Sangha said that he often likes to listen to these teachings while he's walking in the woods. And he'll listen over and over again, but sometimes doesn't have signal. So we actually just adjusted the settings so that you can download those recordings. So if that's helpful for you to revisit the teachings that way, we want them to be as accessible to everybody in the community as possible. So just a note on that. And reminding everyone, please, to always, if you have questions or if you have suggestions about ways that we can make our practices more accessible to you or to others, we always want that feedback, those suggestions. So thank you for offering them always. You can email me directly. And there's also a general email address on the website, and all roads lead back to my inbox. So, however you'd like to share a suggestion or request, they are always welcome. And I shared in the chat earlier that we have one more in-person session coming up this month, our Thursday Insight Dialogue practice with Bart. So that is coming up this coming week on Thursday, the 21st. It's in New York City. It is in person only. So this is the one practice that we offer on a regular basis that is not recorded. It's a difficult kind of practice to lend itself to that format, and also the space that we use for those practices would make it a challenge. But for those of you who are local, please feel free to join us if you can. That is a by donation practice. And then next week, Bart will be back with us. So he will be continuing our exploration of the perfections. So join us again for that on Sunday. And before we open up the breakout rooms, dear Onika, much, much, much gratitude for you. I always laugh and smile and take so many notes on just the really real and practical way that you share the Dharma. So if you have any closing thoughts for us, we welcome them. And then if you can, offer a dedication of merit for our practice today before we open up breakout rooms for community sharing.
My closing thoughts are just deep gratitude to all of you. It's just really lovely to be in community, especially just with everything that's going on in my life, and especially on such a special day with Sangha honoring Susanna. So thank you, like truly from the bottom of my heart. It means a lot to be able to teach under challenging circumstances. And I'd like to dedicate the merit of our gathering today to all of those who don't feel patient with themselves. May they be free from that suffering of judgment and confusion. And may they find ways to be tender with their own hearts